What's up, babes? Welcome back to the podcast. I have my friend Brenda on today, and I'm actually really excited because obviously I met her in the online space, and she was one of those people who I just like naturally connected with. Her energy is just off the chart, and you guys are absolutely in for a treat today. So, Brenda, welcome to my show. Tell my audience who you are and what you do.
Woo, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having
Okay.
me on. Thanks. And I'm going to say hi to everyone that's listening.
Yes.
I'm glad that you get a chance to listen to this great conversation I know is going to happen. So I'm Brenda. I live out of Western Canada on an island called Vancouver Island. And it's actually big. It's about the same size as New Zealand, but it's not like small. And I'm a business coach. I work specifically with midlife women entrepreneurs, women that are thinking about leaving their corporate job and starting on that entrepreneurial journey. And then women that have already done that and maybe need to go back and kind of up level their business in a few ways to kind of get to that 100K, 250 and feel good about the revenue that they're bringing in.
I love that. So I know you specifically work with women kind of like in that like mid area, that 40 and above. Was
Mhm.
this you? Were you in a corporate job and you were kind of like it's sucking the life out of me and you kind of have a story? Kind of maybe
Yes.
tell my audience like your story.
Yeah, the sucking the life out of me was like an understatement, but yeah, I was probably like 47 when I was just like, the blip hit the fan. And but I would say it was like 5 years prior to that, where I could have easily left my corporate job, but I was just stuck in this perpetual loop of like, got to get promoted more, got to get more, salary increase, got to be talking to my boss about taking on more responsibilities. Oh, sure, I'll take on this department. Oh, sure, I'll take on this, big catastrophic, issue going on in our business just to take on these things to get promoted, to get salary increases, to get recognition.
Yep.
And I was just in this constant like, scarcity loop really at the end of the day, because I was like, there's nothing that I can do to do something better for myself. And it was just always trying to look for something more, and never feeling that satisfied, but also burning out, like living off of chips and red wine or, hotel room service. Like I deserve that, molten chocolate cake
Mm-hmm.
because I work so hard and, not working out, not taking care of my body,
Yep.
going through perimenopause, but not going through like didn't know that I was going through perimenopause. And so all those symptoms that I was going through, lack of sleep, bloating, fatigue, all these type of things were hitting me hard. And I didn't know because I wasn't tuned in with my health. I wasn't tuned in with my body. And it was just like I was done. And, the other sort of really big sort of shoe that dropped is my marriage at the
Mm-hmm.
time failed. And so we were going through a separation and divorce. And I just, had to take a step back and go, okay, like I had this definition of success. I checked all the boxes, got married, went to university, had the, kids, the dog, the house.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't this working for me?
Yep.
Everyone told me that I would be successful if I did this. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not feeling happy. I'm not feeling like in love with my life.
Mm-hmm. So did you choose to leave your corporate job or did your corporate job leave you?
I think it was a bit of both, but at the end of the day, I made that decision for my boss and I just said, like, I think this is coming and, I'm just going to make this decision for you. And they pleaded, I even had a colleague say, you should be quitting your corporate career and quitting your job because you're getting a divorce. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's actually a significant thing. Like
Yeah.
when you talk to anybody in this sort of psychology field, divorce, death,
Mm-hmm.
loss of, a significant other, significant illness,
Yep.
these are big things that people go through in their life. And if you're
Yeah.
going through two or three of those things in a year, even moving in that, because I was getting divorced, I had to like separate assets and buy a new home and get my kids settled. These were big things. And like my brain was just like, I
Mm-hmm.
needed some space. So like I quit my corporate job. And I don't advise my clients to do this. I'm always like, now I'm like, when I'm coaching people, I'm like, hey, have like a 6 month runway, like
Yeah.
figure things out. Let's figure out what that next opportunity for you is. Don't get to the point where I was at. But
Yeah.
if you do, it's okay. You're still going to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my story is very similar to yours. Like I was in the corporate space for 24 years and mine got pulled out underneath me very unexpectedly. But it was like it was the biggest blessing in disguise. Like I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew that I had a talent for, sales and business. And it was like I moved to the online space. And it's like, I think just like you, it's like you went all in on your entrepreneurial journey. I went all in on my entrepreneurial journey, and neither one of us really had a backup. Like you said goodbye to your corporate job, and then you were like, hey, I'm all in. I
Mhm.
got fired from my corporate job. So I was like, well, let go. And then I was like, hey, I have no other background to go. So here I am. But I think for a lot of women, they have this safety net when they come to the online space. It's like, well, I still have my corporate job. So I'm going to like put my hands in, entrepreneurship. I'm going to see how it feels. And I feel like that's why a lot of them aren't successful.
Yeah. Well, and just like stats around, entrepreneurs and businesses, whether it's male or female led
Yep.
business owners, it's like really only like something like 5% of them actually like succeed after like 1 or 2 years of business. And I think so that's the critical thing. If you know, have a business idea, I'm all about side gigs, like side hustles, you know, so if you can balance that, if you're not like dealing with aging parents and dogs and kids and trying to, you know, have a great relationship with your partner and all these things that you're juggling in your life, and you can do a side hustle, go for it.
Yeah.
I couldn't, like, I like, it was even just beyond my capacity to think about starting up a business. When I was in that corporate space, I was traveling like 3 weeks out of the year. I was responsible for sales, operations, IT. Like there was like no capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, like when I came home, it was like I didn't have time to think about a side hustle. So I do believe that like if you want to get into entrepreneurship, you need to make that break eventually and make that big decision. And I kind of say this, you know, jokingly, but you got to put your big girl panties on and like step into it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's always going to feel like, oh, I've got like a safety net I can go back to. And if you need to, that's cool too. Like, you know, people say that to me, would you ever go back and, you know, go back into corporate ops again and do that? No, that's like, you know, a heartfelt no. And I do
Yeah. Same.
whatever is possible to make sure that that's not an option for me. So it's like signing up to work with coaches, like
Mhm.
taking my business to the next level, trying different offers, like still being engaged in my business so that I don't get bored with it or think that going back to corporate is an alternative for me.
Yeah. So the women that you work with, because you strictly work with women, correct? Just
Yeah.
women?
Yeah.
The women that you work with, where are they at and like kind of where do you take them? Like, are they just starting out? Do they have a business idea? Do they kind of have a business already and you're kind of helping them scale it with like systems and ops? Like, where is your kind of like your sweet sauce?
Yeah, I'd love to say it's like all those corporate women that are
Yeah.
thinking about exiting in the next 1 to 2 years and they come and work with me. That would be the ideal. I was like, if you are in that boat right now, you should definitely join into my
Mhm.
monthly community membership and just be a part of that. Be in the room with other women entrepreneurs and get that vibe happening in your life. And it's like, see that possibility for yourself.
Mhm.
But most of the women that work with me have already started up their business or maybe like 1 or 2 years in. Maybe they're not making like a full like 100K annual revenue, or if they are, it feels hard. It feels like a slog. And they need to put in some systems, some processes. Like what I say is like they don't necessarily have like an ecosystem yet for their business.
Yeah.
And when you think about ecosystem, like let's go back to biology, like my partner's a marine biologist, so I hear about this all the time. But it's like it needs to be thriving, right? Like there's a plant out there that's helping a bug be really effective in what it contributes, and then the bug, you know, fertilizes something else.
Yeah.
So that's how you should be thinking about your business. Everything you're doing, whether you're launching a podcast today, or you're putting in email marketing, or you're putting in a new offer, they should all help each other out
Mhm.
so that, you know, as you continue to scale your business from 100K to 200K to 300K, not that you're taking a step back and you're relaxing, but it's like some things are working for you instead of you always working in it and being like the integral part to your business.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of, you know, not to make it sort of biblical and spiritual,
Yeah.
but you know, God took 7 days or whatever to make the planet, and now he's like kind of like watching us all function within it.
Yeah. I love it. Have you had your partner on the podcast?
No, but we were talking about that the other day because I
Yeah.
told him I was going to go do some podcasting. He's like, with me, am I going to be on it? And I'm like,
Yeah. I
go for
feel
it.
like he should. I feel like the whole like chemistry and like biochemistry of like ecosystems and biology. I feel like that'd be like a really fun like conversation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, even just to like you as an entrepreneur and him in like that space, like and how that like kind of marries together and all of that. Like, I feel like those would be some really good conversations to have together.
Yes, yeah, because he'll talk because he's in like the project planning, you know, he's
Yeah.
like building out like estuaries and like helping us make sure that we have salmon for the next like 2 generations and stuff like that, and which is awesome. Like that's
Yeah.
his main thriving purpose, and I love him for that. So he'll talk about planning, but then there's entrepreneurial planning, and like my way of planning and his way of planning is like very different,
Yeah.
especially when we're trying to plan a vacation together.
Yeah. I love it. I know you just got back from Italy and I actually want to talk about that. Like you just went to Italy for how long?
I was there for just a little under 2 weeks.
Okay, so 2 weeks. And I think that there's so many people, even in the online space, that could not step away from their business for 2 weeks. They would feel like it would fall apart. They'd be
Yeah.
afraid. They can't even go a day without texting their coach, their mentor, all of those things. What did you have to do to really set your business up to step away for 2 weeks? And what was the systems in place for that?
Yeah, so my big thing is that I have a strategic freebie that I is always running. It's like 24/7.
Yeah.
So really I'm selling 24/7 out there in, you know, internet land
Yeah.
and connecting in with women, midlife women entrepreneurs, and they're coming into my orbit through that strategic freebie. I think it's really attractive. It's a quiz. And so it's all about assessing your entrepreneurial path, whether or not you're transformational luminary or in impactful catalyst. These are sort of the archetypes that you learn about in this
So
book.
great, you guys. Yeah.
And then from there, there's like, free resources, tools, things that they can kind of dive deeper into their entrepreneurial journey. And then there's offers that come through. So setting up that, like, again, that ecosystem where I have a strategic freebie that takes people to my signature offer and then nurtures them through, a relationship online with them. It allows me to step away. But I never really fully step away from my business, because even when I was in Italy, like, I set up my business that it's like, I actually don't mind the idea of going to Italy and maybe jumping on an Instagram live.
Yeah, me too.
There was like one afternoon where it's like, it was hot. We had been out during the day. We were about to go out for dinner. My daughter was like in the shower. She was like literally in the shower. Like, I could hear like the shower running, and we're in our Airbnb rental. And I'm just like, I'm just going to jump on an Instagram live and talk about what's happening with like my Instagram reels right now.
Yeah.
And it was super fun because people were like, are you in Italy right now? Like, aren't you on vacation? And I'm like, yeah, I'm on vacation. But the cool thing about like running, I think, an online business, when you've got all these behind the scenes operations and systems working for you, it doesn't feel like work. It's actually fun to connect in with my community. And why wouldn't I connect in with my community in Italy? Like, I want all my midlife women entrepreneurs to be able to do that. I want them to have a business where it's like, you could, go over here, you could do this, you could like spend the morning with the beach with the kids, come back, jump on an Instagram live if you want, or post a reel of like your day. And it doesn't feel like, oh, like my boss is watching me. Like, I never, like when I used to work on vacation in my
Yeah.
corporate days, I always resented it. I
Yeah.
don't resent my business.
Yeah. And it is beautiful too. And I think part of it is like, you're really leading the way for women who are in corporate right now who could not even step away from their corporate job for 2 weeks. Or it's like, what could that look like if you had this business? You had the income, you had the assets, you had the systems, you had the infrastructure, and you literally had a life that you were loving. Like, how many of you right now are listening to this podcast that are listening to it on your lunch break, driving to and from work, are in your cubicle or at your desk, and you're like, I would love to be able to step away at any given time and go on vacation or even go to lunch with a girlfriend, and you can't. Like, this is exactly what Brenda helps you do. She helps you step away from those things that you're in that doesn't feel good anymore. So I love that you did that. And I think it's important that, you do lead by example for what it is that you are actually creating out there.
Well, here's just an example. Like last night, Scott and I, like, it was at the end of the day, we're sitting on the deck. It's nice out. And so our goal that we have the shared goal. So he, through his work, he can do this like leave of absence type program. He works for like the federal government, and they have all these different like sabbatical type things that they can do with their employees. So we talked about how cool would it be that next summer we go to Spain or Spain/Portugal for 2 months. We still have like one kid at home. The rest of our kids are out. They're all empty nesters. And we just rent a house, not like a villa. We don't want everyone coming at the same time, but it's kind of like, we're going to be here for 2 months. We're going to be bopping around to different villages and checking out different beaches and stuff. Go out during the morning when it's cool and it's like able to do things. Why can't I also just work from there? I can work from anywhere. I can work, like, I'm in his office right now just because there's lots of activity going on upstairs, but I can go to coffee shops. I can go anywhere. And so for me, it's like, yeah, I could take 2 months off from my business. I could figure that out if I wanted to, but why can't I just work anywhere in my business? And that's the beauty of the online space. And I have clients that are also product-based businesses. So they're now, like, I work with them around working with manufacturers. Like, I have a woman who makes bags, and all she used to do was make all of her inventory, but now she's outsourcing some of her signature offer inventory items to a manufacturer. So now she's able to go to like Iceland in the spring. Like, she's like already booked her ticket. She's like, I couldn't do that like 2 years ago because I was the integral piece of my business.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing too, is as you think about your business ecosystem and you're designing all these like offers or widgets or tech systems that you're putting in place, how can you create it so it also fits in with your life goals? Because that was something that was really important to me and Scott when we got together. It was like, we want to travel. We want to travel with our kids. We don't want to be like taking 2 weeks vacation and like trying to pack in our life into 2 weeks vacation. How can we get to this place where like work and life just all fit together? And this is like the biology piece of the ecosystem, like symbiotically, right? It's like life and business work together versus like you have to sacrifice one for the other.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. I think it's awesome where I want to flip this conversation to right now is you have an incredible membership and you and I work together. I'm so grateful to be inside of your business and you have this incredible membership and it's a mentorship and it's $5 a month. And I
Yeah.
know that I've even challenged you to be like, Brenda, why is this $5 a month? This is insane. Like the amount of value that you give, the amount of resources that you have, the amount of speakers that you have in there. And I want you to really like tell people, one, why you created this,
Mhm.
what this is about, and why every single entrepreneur should literally be inside of this. Because it's like mind blowing every time you tell me about this mentorship.
Yeah, it's $5 a month, not because
Yeah.
it's like cheap. Like there's like you said, a
No,
lot of value that goes into
it's
it.
insane.
And it's partly because it's like, hey, as like women, let's face it, like we are in, like if you're still in your corporate job, which is awesome, good for you, but there's a pay equity gap. No matter how much work you do, you are always going to be making, until organizations change this, 15 cents less than your male counterparts. And for women of color, it's even greater. It can be
Yep.
25 to 30 cents less. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
We know that that's a fact out there. Why doesn't every like organization just change it today? I don't know. Budgets, recession, blah, blah, blah. But it's going to be a story in our narrative for women in our careers, probably for the next like 2 generations.
Mhm.
So in the meantime, as an entrepreneur, you can be changing that, right? You can be like charging more. You can be catching up on this pay equity gap, this wealth gap. I don't want your entry into entrepreneurship to be a barrier to that.
Yeah.
I don't want you to feel like, oh, the only way I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur is to sign up for a $20,000 mastermind.
Yep.
Like, go sign up for the 20,000 mastermind
Yeah.
if you want. Like, I'm not going to tell you not to do it, and I'm not going to like bash all of my colleagues out there that are running those type of
Yeah.
masterminds. But I don't want it to be like I can't be successful unless I join this $20,000 mastermind. I don't have 20,000. I'm going to have to dip into my 401k plan. Like, no, I don't want you to do that. So $5 a month to me is less than your Netflix subscription.
Yeah.
It's less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Mhm.
And all I'm asking you to do is to show up weekly and
Yeah.
be in a forum with other women entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Plus, I think the added value that you and I have talked about is if you are a woman entrepreneur and you're like looking for clients,
It's
it
huge.
is the most cost-effective lead generator for you.
Yeah.
You won't get a meta ad campaign for less than $5 a cost per lead.
No.
So you signing up $5 a month, you get access to all these women. There's copywriters in there, there's VAs, there's, I said, like makers, online service providers. You could find your next client, you could find your next podcast guest, you could talk about your own community membership that you're trying to create
Yeah.
for your business, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
So, and you and I've talked about it, that the more I think, especially women collaborate, and we're just natural collaborators,
Yeah.
the better our businesses will be.
Yeah. I mean, it's mind blowing to me. I think every single person that's listening to this podcast right now, we're going to put it in the show notes. Literally stop this podcast right now, pause this podcast, go over and join it. Like it is a no freaking brainer. And I've seen it. I've been part of it. I've listened to it. All of it. Like it's absolutely incredible. And I love that you're changing the narrative for so many women who want to get into entrepreneurship and they can't. And this is someone who sells high ticket coaching. Like I think it's a beautiful place for women to start. And even the thing for you that I love is like, it's not just beginners inside of there. Because
No.
that was even one of the questions that I asked you was
Yeah.
like, okay, is this just for beginners? Is it for the people who maybe can't afford coaching or this the only thing? It's like, no, it's like there's multiple 6-figure earners in there. There's 7-figure earners in there.
7 figures. Yeah.
Yeah, there's business owners in there. So don't think that it's just for like, in air quotes, the baby entrepreneurs. Like there are some phenomenal women inside of there. And I think it's like a place for everybody to join. And you're really creating a movement and you're really changing the narrative. And I love it.
Like I have a client in there, like when she started working with me, she was already at 7 figures because she
Yeah.
does like B2B consulting in her
Yeah.
business. So her contracts, and she's in land development, her contracts are big. Like when she works with one of her businesses, like they're like $200,000, $300,000 clients. She needs like 2 or 3 of those a year, and
That's
she's
it.
already at $1 million. So in relation to maybe a B2C, me selling my $5,000 like mastermind or something like that, I got to generate a lot of clients. She only needs like 3 or 4 clients, but she came to me saying, I want to get my business to like multi-million dollar. Like I want to have like a $10 million business. And
Yep.
like, what do I need to do around that? At the time she had like no email marketing. She wasn't really doing any social media. It was just kind of all of her referrals, which were great, but she wanted to exponentially grow her business. So that's just like someone that's just in the community. But I also have somebody like, again, day one today, coach. I have a lot of coaches in my business, wellness coach. She's like, okay, how do I get anyone to follow me on Instagram. You know, so
Yeah.
it's like the different ends of the spectrum, but I think we could all learn from each other because
Yeah.
it's principally the same type of
Absolutely.
methodology, whether or not you're selling multi-million-dollar contracts or a $5,000 mastermind.
It's literally the same thing. What the conversations I have with my multi-million dollar owners is the same conversations I'm having with my beginners. It's
Mhm.
literally the same conversation. It's just the extent of it and what
Yeah.
we're doing inside of it. But the framework and the methodology really isn't any different. So
The
I
other
love
thing,
it.
the other thing that's also kind of cropping up as far as some of the members in there that I've got are legacy owners. So parents passing away and
Mhm.
now bestowing their company onto the daughter, which
Beautiful.
historically would have transferred over to the son, but now it's going over to the daughter that didn't have necessarily an entrepreneurial path, working in a corporate position, has now inherited, you know, their parents' business.
Mhm.
And she's like coming to me. So I have like a couple of them. They're like, how do I be a CEO? I have employees now.
Mhm.
You know, like what does that look like? Should I hire a CFO? And so like there's even those type of people that are in the membership. So it's really cool, just like the
Yeah.
amount of people that are in there. But like I said earlier, like these are people that can, you know, help you grow your business. You know, if you need a copywriter, I got like a host of copywriters in there.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
I think it's great. So where can people find you and what do you have going on right now? Tell my audience.
You can find me on Instagram. That's where I love to hang out. So
Yeah.
at it's Brenda Rigney. My website is brendarigney.com. So it's just like everything is pretty much around my
Yeah.
name. I've got a podcast called The X, which is all about women or midlife women entrepreneurs. And we go behind the scenes. So I'll bring on, you know, experts like yourself to talk about your, you know, your trade. But then I also want to go behind the scenes and understand about your business and what it took for you to become an entrepreneur and because I just want people again to see entrepreneurship as being an approachable path for them.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. You guys go over, follow her, slide into her DMs. She has incredible, incredible content. I watch it every day. I binge it every day. So it's absolutely incredible. Brenda, thank you so much for being on our show today. And I hope everybody goes over and joins your community.
Thank you.
Of course.